now like to sort of introduce you to a lady called Eleanor Spink, who will be giving us a talk on the support that Maggie's and the Citizens Advice Bureau can provide for patients and family members affected by cancer, and some of the benefits that could be available. So thank you very much. Lovely to meet you, Eleanor. And thank you for joining us today.
No problem at all. It's lovely to be here. I'm not sure if anybody could see when my slides are starting. Oh, okay, brilliant. So hi, my name is Eleanor Spink. I'm here to talk to you about two charities today. The first is Maggie's and the second is the Citizens Advice. Both very, very helpful, and they have a very close relationship. I work in Southampton, in the Maggie's in Southampton, but I'm employed by the Citizens Advice. So we work very, very closely together. If anybody isn't aware of Maggie's, we are a cancer support centre. They are all over Scotland, Wales and England. I'll go into more detail about where they are later on, but they are for anybody experiencing cancer, and there's lots of great support that you can get from them. Here we go. How do I move on? There we go. Okay, yeah. So at Maggie's centres, they are often in close proximities to the hospitals. So here in Southampton, we are at the UHS site at the Southampton General Hospital. Maggie's is just outside hospital grounds. So it's very close. We have very close links to them. Maggie's is for anybody and everybody who is affected by cancer, whether you're a patient, carer, family, friend. We're very aware that, you know, the effects of cancer spread throughout the entire family and community. So a great deal of people that we speak to and not just the patients themselves. Everybody who comes into a Maggie's centre is greeted, and they're able to talk through any issues that they're having. There are professionals here every day. There's no bookings required, no time limits, no referrals. You literally just walk in through the doors. They're incredibly welcoming places. And all the centre staff are professionally trained. Here in Southampton, all of our staff are previous cancer nurses. Some of them still are cancer nurses that do some days a week here. Our psychologist is a myeloma nurse who does certain days in the hospital and some days is our psychologist here. So very close links, very informative people. This Maggie's has a specific, works a bit differently to all the other Maggie's, whereas the benefits advisors here in Southampton, like myself and my colleague Tracy, we work for the Citizens Advice. So there is a contract there for the Citizens Advice to send us over here. So, you know, they work very closely together. And obviously, of course, all the support that you get is completely free. So just to show you where all the Maggie's centres are, they're spotted throughout the UK, throughout England, Scotland and Wales. That's a general list there of where they all are. We have 3 international ones as well, Barcelona and 2 other places that I can't remember, but they are all the UK ones. They're all completely different. They're all architecturally designed, beautiful places that are supposed to, you know, promote peace and a non-clinical environment where you can go and get support from, you know, knowledgeable people close by the hospital, but don't feel like, you know, you're sat in a waiting room. We get a lot of people that come here between visits, between appointments, chemotherapy. It's a nice place surrounded by sofas, and, you know, we've got a massive kitchen table in the middle. Every Maggie's has a kitchen table where people sit down, they come and they make their lunch, cups of tea, coffee. You know, they can make themselves at home and comfortable while they're waiting for appointments or whatever they're going through. This is just some pictures of them, just a couple of them. That bottom right, that's the building I'm in at the moment. That's Southampton in Maggie's in Southampton. But all of them are completely unique and beautiful. They're all designed to promote, you know, a peaceful, quiet place for people to spend their time and get the help that they need. A little bit more about the programme of support. So we offer courses and workshops. So different courses I've got here at the moment. We've got a specific men's group going on, a breast cancer group, a Where Now group, a bereavement group, a young women's group. There's tons and tons of support groups going on. A lot of them work really well because they do kind of like an 8-week program where the same people come to them, like the Where Now group, which is for people who have been through the cancer journey and are trying to get back on, trying to get on with their lives, but having gone through this massive life-changing period of time, still going through it, and they're asking where they are now, what's going on now. And they're, you get very close with people that are going through similar experiences to them, and that can be very helpful. We have stress management courses, relaxation courses, qigong, yoga, all sorts of things. We have an art therapy class going on at the moment there in the centre, where they're all talking. There's cancer specialists with them, and they're all working on a sketchbook while they talk about what they're going through. And everybody who comes to Maggie's can get one-to-one support, whether that be benefits advisors or whether that be through cancer support specialists, who will greet and speak to every single person who comes into the centre, talk about what you're going through, what you need, any support that could be available. They've heard it all before, so you can be very honest with these people. They're amazing. And if you want any, if what's needed is more in-depth emotional support, they can, of course, do referrals to our insight psychologists. Those people, those CSSs and the psychologists, they can help with difficult conversations that need to be had, whether that's with children, loved ones, any conversations that you need that need to take place, and you'd like them to take place in a safe location, surrounded by people who can ask questions. It's a lovely, helpful place to be. Obviously, there's a lot of changes that go on in your life and the life of people that you love. And, we're there for all of those things, all of those people. So that's kind of all I had to say about Maggie's. There's a lot of practical support that obviously we can give you a benefits advice. In Southampton, we have close links with a law firm, and we do we help people with their wills. There's workshops on, getting back into work, all sorts of things that we do at Maggie's. So please have a look at the website, look at maybe going to one that's close by you, or if you can't get to one, a lot of the stuff we do is online. There's a phone number there and an email address, and maggies.org is our website. A lot of the stuff we do at the moment, the relaxation and the qigong and stuff like that, they are online at the same time. We had to adapt, obviously, during COVID. So it's all there. You just have to kind of reach out and know it's there. That help and that support we can give you. So what I'm going to talk to you about now is a bit of my specialist area, which is benefits. So I work for the Citizens Advice, which I'm sure you've all heard of, but it is a charity that is a network of individual charities. So every Citizens Advice, there's something like 2,000 of them in the UK, but they are all individual specific to their area, and they're connected by obviously our online systems that help us give the support that we can, and they are there for people whoever they are, whatever they are, whatever their problem is. So yeah, it says there we helped one-to-one with 2.4 million people in the last year. We can help with benefits, money advice, consumer issues, housing, immigration, discrimination, civil rights, employment. There's, the Citizens Advice is a wealth of knowledge to reach out and get. And obviously they are the 4 underlying principles of the Citizens Advice is confidentiality, impartiality, independence, and the fact that it's completely free. So I'll go into, how you get hold of them a bit later, but, they're a great resource for anybody going through something they need advice on. I started with the Citizens Advice as a volunteer during COVID. I felt like I needed to do something different, and now I work for them full time because I think what they do is absolutely brilliant. And that's led me to Maggie's as well. So, but what's important is that this information I'm about to give you on benefits is specific to England and Wales. I was told that this might go out to other places. So just so that you're aware, the benefits advice that I'm about to give is specific to England and Wales. Also bearing mention that I'm going to give an overview now of some benefits that are specific to cancer. And what the options are for you. It is not an exhaustive list, and I'm not going to be able to go into detail, obviously, because of time restraints. So the knowledge to take away from this is always going to be go and speak to a professional, whether it's Maggie's or Citizens Advice, or an online benefit calculator. I'll give you ways to do all of that at the end, but specific advice is key for benefits. I'm going to start with means tested benefits. So these are benefits that don't take into account income or savings. So they're means tested. There are three main ones I'm going to talk about, not an exhaustive list. I could be here all day talking to you about different types of benefits, but these are the three that are most common. So the one for under 16 is called Disability Living Allowance, DLA, and that is for children who have either a disability, a difficulty walking, or they need more looking after than a child of the same age who does not have the health condition or disability. So this is an ill health benefit. So all children obviously need help looking after, but the key is that the child needs more looking after than a similar child of the same age who doesn't have the ill health, and it's a long-term benefit. So it's for, you must have had the difficulty for 3 months and have it be expected to last at least 6. And you can get between £24 and £156 per week for that. And I'll go into detail how you apply to them all in a minute. Kind of the lifeblood of what we do here is PIP. It's the most common one. I think I probably do a PIP application most days with people. This is for working age people. This is people over 16 and under state pension age, personal independence payments. It's a long-term benefit. So again, a long-term illness benefit. So again, you have to have been experiencing the symptoms of what you're going through for 3 months, and it must be expected to go on for at least 9. So it's a 12-month kind of limit. That can be physical, mental, or any kind of disability that affects your daily life or your mobility. So basically, it doesn't PIP is more. It's less about the effect. It's less about the effect, the fact you have cancer, as it is the effect that the cancer has on your life. So it's all about side effects, fatigue, any physical symptoms that you're having, any effects it's had on your life, and the effect that has on both your daily living. So things like washing, dressing, looking after yourself, or getting around, so mobility. And you can get, there's a sliding scale. You can get between about £24 and about 156 again, depending on where you land on that scale. The final, what a means tested one, is attendance allowance, and this is for people who are over state pension age. And the criteria for this is that you have to have a disability severe enough that you need someone to help look after you. So it's not about the fact that you have someone to look after you. It's in an ideal world, you need someone to look after you, or you could do with someone there to help look after you or keep an eye on you or something like that. And you have to have needed that help for at least 6 months. And there's 2 levels of attendance allowance. The first is the lower level, the standard level. That is for help or supervision needs during the day. And the higher level is for help and supervision needs during the day and the night. And those are the 2 different criteria, the 2 different amounts there. So 62 or 93-ish. And how to apply. There's 3 phone numbers there that you can call. With DLA and attendance allowance, you can print the form offline. With PIP, you have to make a phone call. What's good about making the phone call first is that when you apply, say you apply, it can take up to 3 months on average. It's taking a lot more at the moment to be awarded or rejected, or to get the result. If you're successful, they will backdate it to the date that you made the phone call. So it's worth doing the phone call as soon as possible, because When you, for example, people who do PIP, it can take 4 or 5 months sometimes. At the moment, there's a big backlog. But when they first get their payments, they'll get a big lump sum where they backdate it the 4 or 5 months that they've been assessing you. And then it carries on as a weekly payment after that. I just want to make a quick note about something called a DS 1500 form. This is a form for people who are terminally ill. This is something that you can ask your doctor whether you are eligible for. It is for, your doctor will sign it for you if you have less than 6 months to live. And that means that you don't have to go through the waiting. You don't have to fill all the forms in. You don't have to wait 3 months to get it. It's a fast track way to get onto benefits, to get onto these non-means tested benefits. Just to be aware that that form does exist, and they often call it the special way. So if you phone up to call PIP, they'll ask you whether you're going down the normal route or the special route. The DS 1500 is the special way of getting onto PIP, or DLA, or attendance allowance. So now I'm going to talk about ESA. This is kind of falls in the middle of means and non-means tested. It's non-means tested in the terms that they don't take into account your income and savings, but some income does matter. So private pensions over £85 a week do count, and so does statutory sick pay. ESA is a benefit for people who have a disability or a health condition that affects how much they can work. So you have to be under state pension age, and you have to have paid your national insurance contributions in the last 2 to 3 years. The standard question that's asked is whether you've worked for 6 months, the equivalent of 6 months full time, and paid national insurance contributions in the last 2 to 3 years. So this tends to be the benefit that people go on to when their statutory sick pay ends. So you only get 6 months statutory sick pay, 28 weeks. And then this is the benefit that people tend to go on to once their statutory sick pay runs out. If you're say you're on occupational sick pay, it's good to ask your employer what they do about statutory sick pay, because some employers will claim statutory sick pay and they'll top it up with occupational sick pay, and then when say your statutory sick pay ends, but you might still be on full occupational sick pay, but because your statutory sick pay has ended, you might be entitled to ESA. So it's good to ask your employer what they do with statutory sick pay if you need to take it and it's running out, or you're on occupational sick pay but it's been over 6 months, that sort of thing. You can get something called an SSP1 form from your employer at that time, which allows you to apply for ESA. So yeah, ESA has 2 veins. The first is obviously money for living costs, and the second is that they support you getting back into work if you can, in a similar way to Universal Credit does with, there's support meetings, and they'll give you that extra support that you need to get back into work. The amounts vary a lot with ESA. It depends on your age, the stage of your application. There's an assessment phase, you get more, and then it depends which group you get put into. So I can't give you specifics on how much you would get, but you can apply online or over the phone for ESA. It's also important to say this ESA I'm talking about now is called New Style ESA. It's contributions based, which is why I mentioned the national insurance contribution. All of the benefits that I'm talking about today are what we call new style benefits. So old style benefits do still exist. They are things like income support, working tax credit, child tax credit, housing benefit, that sort of thing. They still exist, but it is only under very specific circumstances you can make new claims for old style benefits. The majority of new benefit claims will be for new style benefits. So things like ESA, you can no longer make an income-related ESA claim. It has to be a contributions-based ESA claim. It's fairly complicated, but just so you're aware, just why I'm not mentioning things like income support, that sort of thing, is that you would have to already be on them in most cases to continue or to change a circumstance, something like that. The majority of the things have to be new style now. So things like income support and stuff like that, they are being replaced by universal credit. They have been replaced in the majority of cases by universal credit. This is means tested. This is the main benefit that you will hear about on the news and places like that. It is a payments to help with living costs if you're on a low income, whether you're out of work, can't work. Basically, it is means tested. So any savings, money, investments, anything that you have over £16,000 will mean that you're not entitled to universal credit. That includes ISAs, bonds, anything like that. That you have over £16,000, means you won't be eligible for universal credit. You also have to be on a reasonably low income. So everybody who gets universal credit gets a different amount because the money that you have is taken into account. Also, if you live with a partner, their income and savings are taken into account as well, and it's called a joint claim. Even if one of you works, one of you doesn't. So, the person who doesn't, the income of the person who does will still be taken into account, and it will be called a joint claim. So the way universal credit is figured out, just so that you have a basic understanding, is that there is a standard allowance amount that changes depending on whether you're in a couple, whether you're disabled, whether you're single, that sort of thing. And then you add on additional elements. So additional elements of universal credit include things like whether you're a carer, whether you have children, whether you have rental costs. So that includes council or private. You can get an extra amount for something called limited capability for work. And basically they add your standard allowance to all the additional elements that you would be entitled to. Then they take off your deductions. So they take off things like how much money you have in savings, any debts you're paying back through universal credit, that sort of thing. They take that into account. And then it comes up with a final figure, essentially. So what I would say is that if you're thinking of applying for, you want to know what you're eligible for, a really good way of showing what you would get on universal credit is to do something called an online benefit calculator. So I'll put the links to that in a minute. But what essentially a benefit calculator does is that you input your information and it tells you what benefits you could be entitled to, and it will give you a much clearer picture of if you're entitled to universal credit and how much that would be. They do tend to be quite specific. They're good. Okay, finally, the last kind of benefit that I'm going to talk about is carers allowance. This is obviously for people who look after anybody who is disabled or has ill health. So this is means tested in that if you are earning over £132 net a week, so after tax, national insurance, expenses, your income is less than £132 a week, then you could be entitled to carers allowance as long as you care for someone at least 35 hours a week, and the person that you're caring for gets a disability related benefit. So something like PIP, DLA or attendance allowance that we talked through earlier, as long as the person you care for gets one of those, you could be entitled to carers allowance. A couple of key things is that only one person can claim carers allowance per disabled person. So say there's two people that looks after somebody with an ill health or a disability, only one person can claim carers allowance for that person. Also, if they're on old style benefits in particular, it's really important that you get specific advice, you get professional advice, because it may affect the benefits they're on. It's particularly relevant in old style benefits, but it can affect things like council tax reduction, stuff like that. And carers allowance you can't get if you're getting a full state pension. What's important to think about is that people think of caring as just personal care. There's a lot of kind of stigma around being a carer, I think, but it's not just stuff like that. Going shopping for somebody, emotional support. Say you're on the phone to somebody a few hours a day. Emotional support, texting someone, helping them with bills, DIY around the house, driving them to appointments. Those sorts of things are all care that you give somebody. So think about, the sort of help that you give someone. It's not an exhaustive list of things that you have to do to be a carer. It's just 35 hours a week of your time. So just check whether that would be applicable to you or anybody that anybody that helps you. Specific advice to your situation. The benefit calculators I talked about earlier, they are Turn to Us, Entitled to, and Policy and Practice. Those are the 3 that we would recommend. They're all simple to use, online. You input your details. It's not an application. It's not logged. It is just a way to look at what you could be entitled to. And it's just a preference thing. I tend to use entitled to out of habit, but I have used the other 2 and they both work as well as each other. In terms of, just have a look. Citizens Advice, their offices, I think there's 2,500 all over the country. So have a look. What your local office is. There's a national line there that would get you through to the national, and then it would be diverted to wherever your area is. And there's lots and lots of information online as well. If you want to have a look online, our website is there. That's the Maggie's email address and number again. And there's also the ECLO, how to find your nearest eye care liaison officer, who can help, who I'm fairly certain can help with form filling in, that sort of stuff, which is what we do at Maggie's and at the Citizens Advice as well. They can help you fill in all the forms once you get them. PIP forms and DLA forms and stuff, they can be quite convoluted. So you can book an appointment with Citizens Advice or Maggie's and they can help you fill them in. That's everything from me that I had on slides. If anybody has any questions, then please let me know. Thank you so much for listening.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Eleanor. And I think, just from your talk, it's so clear that it can be a complicated, area of just sort of like, knowing actually what's the best sort of route to go down. So, thank God for people like yourselves that can actually guide people and just do this day in, day out, to helping people through this.
Absolutely.
What are the sort of some of the common areas where people struggle with when it comes to sort of like completing forms or portraying actually what their needs are?
I think that with things like PIP forms, they ask very broad questions, stuff like, do you need help cooking? And people have made adaptions, and they aren't struggling so much because they've made those adaptions, and they've been doing it for so long that they haven't really realised, how much they've adapted the way they have done things. So they might be getting on okay, but they're getting on okay because they've got someone who opens tins for them, or they've got a grabber that they can pick things up if they drop them, or they've got handrails they can hold on to, stuff like that. Like all of that is relevant for PIP and for different disability benefits. So I think it's good to talk to somebody who someone like us who has done these lots of times and is used to the way people have adapted their lives, so that you can really get to the bottom of what adaptations and aids they've got in their house and stuff like that, and how they get around different things, so you can phrase it and help them word it in a way that it really gets across their struggles and what they're dealing with.
Because actually I think it's, I don't know, quite a British thing possibly, that actually you got stiff upper lip and you just sort of soldier on.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I can imagine that it can be hard for somebody to actually realise that.
And also like these forms that you're filling in, like sometimes you can be with the person for an hour and a half and you're making them go into detail, very specific detail, and it can be quite upsetting, like when you realise that all these adaptations that you've made and stuff. So it's really good to be in an environment like Maggie's, where you can be in one of these little side rooms with someone and it's completely confidential, and you can talk about things that you may be not comfortable talking about in front of your family or people that love you and people that are close to you, but you can get that support from somebody who is impartial to the situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
because I can imagine there's some sort of conversations that people might want to prepare or do some housekeeping and things like that. So it's good that
absolutely.
actually you've got different types of advisors on tap to support people as well. So
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. It's not just benefits,
yeah,
and also I think being citizens advice here at Maggie's, I do a lot of employment and housing issues as well, because obviously the effects of cancer are so, it's not just money and health, it can have an effect on, your employment, your housing, your immigration status for some people, it's so widespread, the effects of it, that it's good to be able to, you can help people with all sorts of different things.
And actually I used Access to Work for I'm dyslexic, so I've used it and we were, as a charity, we were able to get sort of like dyslexia software to help me in my workplace. So that's another route that's just popped into my mind.
It's brilliant. There's lots of charities out there that are willing to help. We've got clients that are deaf and blind, and there's no lack of access to get to Maggie's or Citizens Advice. They're both there for anybody. They're both disabled friendly. They're lovely places to be.
Yeah, it's just that getting that mindset ready, isn't it? Of just okay, actually, I'm, it doesn't matter that if I need to reach out and help. And,
Absolutely. There's nothing you're saying that they're not going to have heard before, but every situation is so specific, and you want to make sure you're getting, high quality advice that's catered specifically to your needs and your situation, which is more difficult to get online. It's better when you're talking to somebody who specializes in that area and can give you specific advice to your situation.
And then just sort of lastly from me, if somebody has applied for a benefit in the past, what kind of things, if they notice that actually, well, I'm still struggling, are there kind of trigger points, or is it okay to reapply?
So there's nothing stopping you reapplying. If you've applied for something and you've been rejected, there's nothing to stop you reapplying. There's different avenues you can go down. You can ask them to look at it again. There's something called mandatory reconsideration, where it's been in the last month. We can help with all of those sorts of things as well. We do appeals, mandatory reconsideration. We help people with new applications. There's no barriers to it. And if there are, we'll figure something else out. It's flexible. There's grants we can apply for. There's other charities we can go to. There's, we never say no, if that makes it. The answer is never, sorry, we can't help you. It's all right. We'll do this then. We'll do this next, and we'll, this is what you need to do now.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Like our speaker from the National Eye Service earlier, we've never had sort of Maggie's coming on to, or Citizens Advice, coming on and sort of telling us a bit about what you do. So just really appreciate you doing this for us today.
No problem. It was nice to meet you.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.